Great, thank you, Sonia. If you don't mind going to the next slide. Okay, so everyone, I'm gonna start with a quick story. My whole background actually started off with being in the Canadian Army. I was a full-time, what they call regular force soldier, and during my transition out of the military, this story will start now in 2016. I was in my last semester while going back to school now as a mature student. As you can see, my age there, definitely much older than what the regular student body would have been. And at that time, I had no job because I decided to get out of the military. So I brought no income into the house. My wife, who was actually pregnant at the time with our first, she was supporting us, literally putting food on the table. And she'd have to walk to and from work every day, oh geez, maybe 20, 25 minutes each way as a pregnant lady in downtown Toronto, because I needed the car to wake up at 5:30 to get to school campus at 7 a.m., get in the library and literally study from 7 a.m. to, I kid you not, 10:30 to 11 p.m. at night. And then I would come home and just enough time to eat something and go right to bed and back to the grind again. That was literally my lifestyle, exclusively in my last semester in 2016. What's interesting is that while that's my lifestyle, my mental health was clearly devastated because I'd applied to over 177 jobs. Literally, these applicant pools that we all see today, where you go to, for example, company ABC, you apply for a job XYZ. That's what I was doing for across all kinds of financial institutions. And I kept getting rejected, rejected, rejected. And this is me speaking holistically that I had altered my resume, of course, to tailor it to that specific company's lingo and did all that stuff. But in the end of the day, kept getting rejected. And that really brought my morale down. But what's interesting is that I took a high risk. I made a life impacting decision that I said to myself, I'm going to transition careers and I will land in a successful new career by the time I graduate in January 2017 from my Bachelor of Commerce. And that is exactly what happened. One thing led to another, where all my persistence finally paid off by way of networking aggressively. And that actually opened up a door. The last piece of story I want to tell all of you is that I was very fortunate to meet with a Fortune 50 CFO of a very powerful organization. And when this individual brought me to their office, I'll never forget, it was a 15-minute meeting that was actually really no longer than 6, 7 minutes. And the second I sat down in front of them, they immediately put their papers in front of me and pencil down and said, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? And I was all mumbly saying, well, I kind of want to do financial institutions, but I'm also going to do something else. And they immediately interrupted me and said, wrong. That's not what you're going to do. You will go 100% for financial institutions. You will not compromise. You will not quit. You will not negotiate. You will go for that. Because if you have a winning mindset, you will win. If you keep second guessing yourself and doing something else, then you'll never win. You will always be confused. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ovais Ahmed. And I actually have a lot of experience in the following three topics that I'm going to share with you today. So if you don't mind going to the next slide. The three topics we're going to cover today is going to be about how to transition careers, professional development, and networking. So look, I'm going to say it like it is. I'm going to talk to you raw. I'm going to be very truthful. And this is me you're talking to. I do not represent any company. This is Ovais, me. And I'm going to be very raw with all of you because you need to hear the truth. You need to hear the strategies. You need to know what is going to come at you in regards to any of those three different buckets I'm going to address today. I want you to be prepared. And the goal of all of this is not to talk about me. No, I don't care about me. I care about you. I genuinely mean it when I say that I've given up my time today to make sure that at least one of you can walk away today in one of these three respective buckets and become successful. And that one day you will message me on LinkedIn or heck, shoot me an email and you'll say, hey, Ovais, guess what? I got the promotion, or I just landed a new career, or I decided to make a pivot and it worked out really well for me. This is what I want to hear because helping people is what matters a lot to me. So real quick disclaimer, and I'll read it line by line. The views and opinions expressed in my webinar are those of myself and do not reflect the official policy or position of my past or present employer. So in other words, folks, this is me you're talking to. Next slide, please. So I'm going to jump right in now with career transitioning. So when I looked at my own transition from military to banking, one of the key things when I reflected on myself and saying, what could I have done better? What could I have done to better plan, for this end state? These are the 5 factors that I've put together. And it's actually the 5 factors I want to share with all of you. Now, keeping in mind this topic, but also the other 2 topics, I'm speaking to you at a macro level because there's not enough time for me to dive into the weeds. But I'm going to do my absolute best to take quick moments of pause and elaborate a little further. That way, I can really hit the key notes here, what you take away. So that being said, what you need to focus, the first thing, what you need to focus on is what you love to do. So if you're right now, it doesn't matter what your background is in terms of diversity of your careers or your professional diversity, doesn't matter. If you're a doctor today and you want to be a vehicle mechanic tomorrow, that's just as cool. But what you need to figure out is, do you want to be a vehicle mechanic? You have to figure out something that you want to do, something you love. Otherwise, you will be miserable. And I promise you that during your transition experience, you will end up quitting. And then you will have wasted that timeline, that period of investment that you made, whether financially, emotionally, or now family. In other words, a trade-off, spending time with your family to now do this, it'll all gone to waste. So really assess, what is it that you love to do? Because that's what you'll be happy doing every day. Once that's done, number 2 is about the industry. So I like to use the example of accountants. Oh my goodness, accountants can work in any industry on this planet. As long as something is called a business or a government, an accountant is needed no matter what. So if we take the example of an accountant, well, guess what? An accountant for a financial institution, you're probably gonna look a little bit like me right now, wearing a dress shirt, sometimes a blazer, sometimes a tie. But what if you're an accountant right now for a startup? If you're in the middle of the California Valley working in Silicon Valley, as an example, well, guess what? They don't care about wearing suits and ties. Heck, you can go in with a wife beater and Hawaiian shorts for all the CEO probably cares, because at the end of the day, you're delivering, and that's that culture. So this is the other thing you need to figure out, which is, what is that industry, which also ties into the culture that attracts you. For me, I don't mind wearing a suit, because I come from the military, wearing a suit is almost a sense of uniform. So for me, it was a no-brainer. I'm comfortable with that. But for yourself, maybe it's not. Third thing is educational requirements. Now, this is a key thing here. Just because you have a master's degree in ABC does not mean it has any value to job XYZ that you're applying for. And that's something where a lot of people don't tend to realize. Having a master's, having an MBA, having a PhD, having a law degree, having a medical degree, those are only good for those fields. And that's when you need to remind yourself, especially those that have just generalized master's degrees, okay? They're great, but are they really applicable? And that's where you need to reassess yourself and say, if you want to be an accountant, because again, talking about accountants as an example here, we all know that accountants, what's usually the basic fundamentals? Well, usually it's a business degree. Let's be real, right? It's usually a business degree. And whether you have that or not, the gatekeeping requirement is actually the certification. I've probably just top of my head today. I think it's called CPA, or it's the old version of CGA. Point being is that you need that piece of paper that shows employer, hey, guess what? I did the time, I studied, I wrote the exam. Here's my proof. I can do this job. That's something you have to figure out for yourself, depending on what you want to get into. Number 4, networking. So there's this popular saying, and by the way, we'll dive really deep into that later on, okay? But for now, networking at a high level, there's a popular saying, everything is about who you know and not what you know. Well, my personal opinion is that while that does hold a lot of merit and truth, it's missing some kind of bullet points underneath that, which is the what you know piece is already the default. Let's be real. If you right now are a hiring manager and someone has a business degree applying for a business analyst role, you're probably going to have a higher probability of hiring them versus someone who has a history degree and applying for a business analyst role. Let's be real, right? So that being said, networking is what will help you convince and work around perhaps your former experiences, your former employment tenors, your former educational attainment, and help articulate a more impactful messaging, because the networking component helps open up a door for an interview. And that's what that does. But again, we'll dive into that deeper. Lastly, is about finding a coach and a mentor. So remember I told you the story, I was networking my butt off. I eventually found a CFO of a Fortune 50, and this individual had said those words to me, and that really stuck with me even till today in my life now. That's something where I'm going to use this as an example. You need to reach out and find someone to coach you, someone to mentor you, help you along the way. What you think is plan A and plan A is going to be the best might actually not be the best, because there's going to be some moments where you have to finesse and modify your plans. And it's good to have an outside perspective looking in on you. So that's where I'll wrap up the topic of transitioning. And if we can please go to the next slide, I will now dive into professional development. Okay, so professional development. This is an interesting one. In fact, I'm always asked a lot of questions when I coach or I actually mentor a lot of folks on the side today. And I bucketed these bullet points into addressing a lot of the areas within professional development I'm always asked about. So the first one is interesting, and this is the most important thing, by the way. This has nothing to do with being successful. This is everything to do with life. It's called storytelling. Here's what I have learned, everyone. It you can be you could be a quant, you could be an investment banker, you could be the best of the absolute best. You could be given those awards we always see on LinkedIn, people have top 40 under 40, top 20, 20. You could be all that stuff, sure. But do you really know how to storytell? Meaning that if you have something that's going to blow the mind, if you were the first creator of Instagram and you had this app you just developed, right? Well, I can promise you my life on it. While the concept of it sounds great because we're all using it today, how the heck did those people actually storytell that new innovative idea to investors? And let's bring it back to the workplace. How are you going to convince or sell your project, which is going to create savings, or it's going to help the company with different avenues? How do you storytell something that's phenomenal and just breathtaking? Well, this is a skill set, and it's something you have to work on. Nobody is great at storytelling. A quote unquote salesperson is not going to be organic or a default phenomenal storyteller. No, this all takes a lot of work. People say building resumes is work. Well, guess what? So is storytelling. And storytelling is what will make you successful beyond your peers. Because guess what? In this world today, especially because of the pandemic, anybody and everybody can now do a job, ABC, but not everybody knows how to actually convince, persuade, get buy-in, and tell that story as to the why. Like, so what? Why does this matter to me? This is where that skill set comes into place. The next thing is, and this is actually interesting enough, because of this pandemic, this has become more relevant than ever in all of our lives today. Never, ever isolate yourself into one field throughout your career endeavor. Become a jack of all trades. I'm going to give a wild example here and talk about the aviation industry. If you're a pilot today of a specific aircraft, whether it be fixed wing or propeller, right? This is just pure example, okay? If you're now a fixed wing pilot, well, guess what? It's very safe to say the flights are not taking that much. There's not that many flights in the world today, right? So a lot of those poor individuals now are having to look for something else, to be real. But what if that pilot was also qualified propeller, meaning helicopters? Well, guess what? You can now do Orange Helicopter for those of you that are located today in Ontario, where they provide medical supplies and kidney transplants, these types of things, right? That's using a helicopter. And I'm giving you a very easy example here. So if I bring it to now into business, if whatever field you decide to enter, do not isolate yourself into one. You need to keep moving, keep pivoting, keep taking different roles, build up your strength, build up your foundation that you can do this, because guess what? Look at today's executives, by the way. And if you don't believe me, look them up on LinkedIn. Every single executive you will look onto LinkedIn or Google, I promise you, their professional tenure, whether it be 50 years long or heck, 10 years within that same company, they have kept doing different things, whether they've been in HR to now capital markets to now doing security, doesn't matter. They have a very large knowledge base, and you need to position yourself for that as well. Next thing, very quickly, as you can tell, it's intuitive speaking, is about courses, right? Don't just think education is the one-stop shop where you do it when you're young, you work rest of your life. It doesn't work like that. You need to also keep in mind that at least every year, at least start reading something that's relevant to what your field is, but don't read what has been passed. Read what's incoming. So that way you bring that future way of thinking and the development or opportunities of what could be labeled as something as efficient or new. And that can be now brought into your own experience space where you can propose that to your bosses. The other bullet points can be about, this is an interesting one actually. This one I learned when I first joined my first private sector company when I transitioned out of the military. And that is your first leader is about learning, okay? Ask every question under the sun. Who cares if you're on a conference call with your whole team? Who cares if you're on a conference call with your executive? Stop being shy and start now becoming extroverted. Ask the questions. If you don't understand an acronym, ask the question. There's no such, I mean it, and executives will tell you this too. There's no such thing as a stupid question. There really isn't. So you need to truly ask the questions. Hey, what does acronym ABC mean? Oh, thank you. I didn't realize that. And you know what? For yourself now, you have a whole year to make mistakes because guess what? When that second year comes around, there is no room for error. There just isn't. Your boss and their bosses are going to rely on you to deliver or execute on whatever your role is. And that is not the time where you want to be asking questions saying, hey, what does that mean? It's not right. If you go to the next slide, please. So the last three bullet points of professional development is going to be, oh, you have to go back up one. The last three bullet points for professional development are going to be about this. When it comes now time to mentoring, so this is organizational mentorship, meaning it's in your own company, okay? Don't ask your boss to be your mentor because I'll tell you right now, your boss already has a ton of stuff on their plate and you're not gonna get much value because the reality also is that they're your boss. Whenever you have time to talk to them, it's usually about what's ongoing in your plate today. So try to find, and generally speaking, try to find a mentor who's one rank above your boss. So that means two ranks above you. And if you can, it might even be better for you to find that person who's two ranks above. Example's sake, if I'm a director, today and I'm looking for a VP, so that's two ranks above me, to be my mentor, I don't need to have a physical security VP a mentor, but rather anyone in security who's a VP could be a mentor. The reason why is because it's two birds, one stone. One, their tenor by way of their title. They can provide a lot of interesting feedback, generalist feedback and advice. Two, the fact that they're not part of your exact pillar or your streamline means that they can bring some interesting perspectives, diverse thoughts and ideas to you and to when you explain to them saying, hey, I got a project ABC going on. They can help give you some really cool things or ways of avenues you haven't explored yet. Next thing, be a good communicator and writer. I'm going to use me right now as an example in this moment. Look, here I am. I'm communicating to all of you. And I know there's hundreds of you registered, for example. Am I scared? Am I nervous? Have butterflies my stomach? No, I don't. Do I love to talk to help people in this regard? Yes, I do. But how did I get to this level of comfort? Well, simple. It took a lot of practice. And to become a great communicator will actually resonate in your professional life as well, because it means you have the ability now to stay cool, calm, collected, and accurately articulate the responses you want to give that has the biggest bang for the buck to your audience. The last piece, okay? This one's interesting. People talk about, well, how long do I have to stay in my role for? And when should I be considering looking for the next thing? I want to be very clear. The next, let me take a step back. Everybody, myself included, whether millennial, Gen X, Gen Y, whatever classification you want to use, in the end of the day, we are all guilty of wanting to keep climbing up the next thing, keep climbing up the next thing. But I'll tell you a little hint, only 1% of everyone here in this call today will become an executive. And I'll tell you why. Because people that keep climbing too fast, you're not building enough of a strong foundation of experience and exposures. That is why I strongly encourage at least pivot once to twice within your respective rank. So if you're a manager today, well, if you're a manager of, I'll make this up, manager of physical security, well, guess what? If you have an opportunity to make a pivot into manager of cybersecurity, oh my God, do it. That's a no-brainer because you keep building a stronger foundation. So now when you apply for a senior manager role, I can bet you my life on it, the hiring manager and the HR recruiter in that interview are going to be blown away because you're now giving them real life examples of how you would address a situation, but also how you have a phenomenal knowledge base. So in other words, every 2.5 to 3 years, try to pivot at least twice, okay? Don't worry, we're all young. We're all going to work till we're probably 70, 75. Who knows what the future holds? And don't even think about that. And lastly, you're not Mark Zuckerberg. You're not Bill Gates, and neither am I. Stop thinking like that. Stop it. Instead, think, how do you become the master? How do you become the person where you walk down the street in a business center and people know you and people want to get to know you because you just know a lot. That's the type of person you want to be. So lateral moves are amazing. And then after a certain point in time, then I would recommend you explore a vertical move. We go to the next slide, please. Okay, so this is the most important topic, hands down. In fact, I love talking about networking. And everyone in this call today, I'm going to spend a lot more time now in networking, which is why I was trying to manage my time best so I can really invest detail by detail on how you can become a true networker. Because a lot of folks, this is a skill set like storytelling, where you have to finesse. If you notice that the red font bolded words above that sentence, your network is your net worth. Let that resonate for a bit. Think about that for a second, okay? Your network is your net worth. Oh my goodness, that can mean so many different things, right? But the result is the same. If you want to be successful by way of you wanting to become a CEO one day, I guarantee you my life on it. The network that you have is what will bring you there. If you are a person who, I don't know, you have a neighbor who unfortunately may have lost their job and they're really struggling. They have family, they have kids, everything else, and they come to you for help, saying, "Hey, can you help me out, Tom or Sarah? I'm looking for a job in this field." Well, if you don't have a network, how can you help them, right? So there's so many ways to look at this statement, but this statement is extremely powerful. And I once heard this from a different kind of C-suite who once told me that statement, and it's resonated with me ever since. So here's a quick story, real life story. In 2017, when I first started off in the private sector, after my transition, I had 4 LinkedIn accounts. Kid you not, brother, wife, and 2 accounts, which now in hindsight, I think were probably bots or fake accounts, but I had 4 connections. Today, look me up on LinkedIn, okay? And look at my connections, number of connections. I have over 22,000 connections. And the funny thing is that well, whether they're bots or not, I don't know. But the funny thing is that these connections, these are people from all different walks of life. They're not all security. They're not all bankers. No, of course not. And that'd be very foolish of me to do this. Instead, these people have all diverse backgrounds, but they're all working professionals. They're all mixed ranks. Some are executives. Some are the cleaning person of an executive office. To me, it doesn't matter. I treat everybody the same. I see value in everybody equally because in the end of the day, this is one of the fundamentals of networking. And I'm going to actually jump into that a little bit further. And the last thing I want to say real quick is my current role here at my current organization that you can see there in the picture. I got this job because I literally messaged the hiring manager over LinkedIn. I don't know if my boss is watching this right now or not, but true story. I didn't know him. I did not know him at all. We were connected, but I didn't know him. But I noticed he had a role in this team. So when I messaged him on LinkedIn, fast forward, that evolved into the job interview process, which was long, hard, of course, but it evolved into getting hired, right? And it all started because networking 101, man. I went out there, I messaged him, I asked, hey, I know there's a role available. I'm not here to send you my resume or ask for a job. No, but I'm just here to ask, would you be willing to have maybe a virtual coffee chat so I could learn more about the job? Things like that, right? And look what happened. It came to fruition. We go to the next slide, please. So here's something really, really cool. Another C-suite I met in my life. And by the way, these meetings were, this is all before pandemic, obviously, but these meetings were all the quote unquote kind of coffee office chats. So I was always in these women and men's offices where we had these discussions. Something someone once told me, my goodness, this is another thing that stuck with me for the rest of my life. And I know I'll be saying this exact thing till the day I die. And that is, think of networking as a spider web. So look at this picture that you're all seeing right now. Dead center, that little circle, by the way, that's you, okay? Look above, look around that. See how every web connects, they intersect? Those intersections are what I call data points, AKA people. So like in real life, spider webs today, man, these things can be huge, huge webs. And those interconnecting pieces, well, think about it. There's probably thousands of them, right? Because you have to catch bugs, insects, whatever. So look at this as you right now. You are the center of a spider web. Every time that you network with somebody, every time you reach out with somebody to ask for a coffee, always end that meeting with, hey, and the dialogue is up to you to choose, right? What do you want to talk about? But you have to end the meeting with saying, hey, do you have someone in mind I could also benefit from talking with, or meeting with, or asking questions about ABC with, whatever it is you want to articulate that as. The point is that every time that happens, you've now created another intersection in your spider web. And these are the people that are now becoming aware of your name. They become aware of who you are, how you carry yourself, how you talk, how you present yourself, and obviously your intelligence. How smart are you on that topic? Are the questions you're asking? First of all, let's be real here. Are they watered down questions that you're purposely doing for the sake of just adding a network contact? Or are these impactful, really good, solid questions that gets the person thinking how to answer best? And that's where the value is at, everybody. You want to make this spider web to be very impactful to your life. Second thing, cold emailing and calling works. So I'm telling you right now, there's a reason why sales 101, right? Everybody knows in sales, you got a cold call, you got a cold email, because guess what? It does work. And now the pandemic has actually accelerated, or in fact, put a spotlight on the benefits of that. Because guess what? We're talking to you over a web camera. I never had this opportunity before because I was more in person. So if we were in person, it's kind of hard to really, what do you call it? Cold introduction to somebody in person. Well, that's very awkward. People don't usually do that. So they usually would do cold emailing and calling. And that's what's happened today. We're all virtual. Take advantage of that. There's nothing wrong with you inviting a random contact on LinkedIn or whatever that's called, in this case, a cold invitation. There's nothing wrong with it. This is the new world we're living in and we're trying to get through. The next thing is, and this is a very important piece for a lot of people here, please never ever attach your resume and never ask for a job when you contact somebody. Those are the two worst things you could ever do. And I'll be very honest right now in raw and telling you that every time I get messages on LinkedIn, and believe me, I get dozens of these things per week, I will have random people, just whether they're connected to me or not, I don't know them, they're going ahead and they're sending me, they're messaging me, and then adding their resume, asking for a job or one or the other. I ignore it. I completely ignore it because why are you making our dialogue awkward for me? Because that is exactly what you're doing. And you need to put yourself in the shoes of that recipient. If right now I'm coming to you, each and every one of you, I'm coming to you and saying, hi, my name is Ovais, here's my resume. Do you have any job or roles in your team? Well, guess what? If I'm you, I'm gonna think this person's lazy. This person hasn't even looked on the careers website. This person has not done their research enough to realize that, well, you should probably not attach a resume or immediately ask for a job when you don't know somebody, but instead changed up the dialogue and said, hi, I'm so-and-so. I was just wondering if you'd be free maybe for an informational meeting. That's how I would judge and assess that, right? So you need to think of it like this. Don't make it awkward for the recipient. And that ties the next bullet point, right? About asking for a job. And I put that twice because it's very important. Don't do that. Even if you're desperate, do not do that. You will not get enough returns. Look, here's what I tell somebody. Correction, here's what I tell people. If someone likes you when you talk with them, okay, they will go out of their way. I promise you, they will go out of their way to help you, whether they do an introduction to somebody they know who's hiring for their teams, or whether they generally see value that if I introduce, I'm making a name up here, Mohammed Iqbal to a certain role or a certain hiring manager, whether they get that job or not, it doesn't matter because I'm endorsing my name. I'm putting my name next to this person to introduce them, but I know this person's amazing. And I want that hiring manager to see how amazing this person is too, because guess what? If that person isn't hired for that role, maybe there's a role down the line that person get hired into. So that's something you need to think about. Lastly, an X factor. Here's my biggest advice. Whenever you do reach out to connect with people, whether it be through LinkedIn, cold call, an email, or you meet like this now in person, eventually, a webcam, you want to have an X factor. For someone like myself, I do open up mildly by saying that I'm a Canadian Army veteran turned into financial institutions industry, and right now I work as a security professional. I say that, and believe it or not, the X factor is military veteran, because how many vets do we know doing what they do today? Not that many. But guess what? You don't have to be a veteran. You don't have to be a former cop, a former firefighter, whatever. You don't have to be that per se to be able to exploit this opportunity. No, you could literally use the opposite. You could say, hey, you know what? I'm actually a new immigrant. I came from ABC country where I did X, Y, Z. And I'm actually here today because I'm looking to do a career transition into ABC. That's pretty cool. That's a really cool X factor. Or the flip side, you're a student, right? I went to Ryerson. I went to Yale. I went to, I don't know, Johns Hopkins to do ABC. And I'm actually wondering if we could connect because while I was there, I learned some really cool things about your field. So try to insert something that's an X factor. We can go to the next slide. So this brings us down to the key takeaways. So at a high level, I know it's very quick, but again, these topics do involve a lot of micro discussions and some of them even more, meaning a meso level discussion too. But in the end of the day, what I really want to see from all of you is that you can utilize those strategies I had now shared. And my personal recommendation is those three red words right there. Be fearless, be tenacious, be hungry. Be fearless. What I mean by this is that stop being shy. I don't care if you're an introvert or if you're an extrovert. Guess what? Both are successful in their careers, but there's a big difference between successful introverts and introverts. The successful introverts are not shy because they actually do know when they have to speak up and when they need to get out of their comfort zone, okay? Get out of their shell. And these are things you've already heard, right? Which is why I label this term as now being fearless. Be tenacious, okay? Don't be afraid. You be aggressive. Know what you want, right? Be stern. Don't give up. Don't stray off the path. Don't negotiate. Don't compromise. Focus on exactly what you want, where you exactly want to go, and apply the most ingenuity, the most effort possible to get there. And don't quit. Lastly, be hungry. Every time you go in a job interview, and here's some personal advice. Every time that happens, I'll tell you right now, if I have candidates, let's say 6 candidates that all have the same attributes, they all are shining examples. I'm gonna be real with you. I'm gonna hire the person that probably showed the most hunger, who really wanted this. And that's only shown through this, through video and through audio, whether this be in person or not, it's the same thing. You gotta show that body language of how bad you want something. If you don't do that, then why were you there in an interview, right? Why, if your job is to convince a hiring manager that you're the person for the job, then don't be plain Jane. Meaning, don't be vanilla. Don't be so like, hi, my name is Ovais, and I like this job. I think I'd be great for it. No, smile, be outgoing. And again, if you're introvert or not, who cares? Because look at the successful introverts today. They're multi-billionaires, but I tell you, they knew how to be outgoing when they had to be. And that falls into this hunger piece. If we can go to the next slide. So while this does conclude this dialogue of the three different buckets I covered today and the strategies I shared with all of you, what I do want to genuinely say is this. I really hope that all of you who attended and all of you that are going to watch this later, post-dated, that you can take some value out of this. And I ask, in fact, I'm demanding that I want you to contact me over LinkedIn or email or whatever. I want you to contact me and tell me one day when you do get promoted, one day when you did successfully pivot into a different career, and or one day when you actually transitioned careers, because there was something that I said which helped. I want to know because I genuinely care. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. And I genuinely hope that everything I shared today is going to help you become successful in your professional life. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ovais, for your inspirational words. Like I mentioned earlier, it was a very good message for Monday, very motivated. So we'll ask everyone to start typing your questions into the Q&A tab. I see we already have a few questions here, so I'll start reading them out loud. Does it mean the more connections you have, the more success you are likely to have?
Great. That's actually a really interesting perspective. Okay, so how about I answer it like this? In the end of the day, we don't know what the outcome of the future is, right? But what we do know in life, and this is nothing to do with religion, nothing to do with professional life. This is just life. This is being us humans right now. But what we do know is that while the future is ambiguous, there are things that we can do today to make it less stressful or to make it less negative, or on the flip side, to become more successful in whatever it is you're trying to achieve. So if I tie that now into the term connections, and let's use LinkedIn as probably that example there, does having more LinkedIn connections equate to success? The answer is maybe. Maybe yes, maybe no, because it depends at the time of that moment. When you're looking for a certain job opportunity, do you maybe have a contact who has either worked there before, knows the hiring manager, is the hiring manager, some cases, right? This is the way you have to look at it. So I wouldn't maybe connect the two by saying that more connections equals success, but rather more connections enables you to explore easier avenues to get to a successful outcome. Because again, it comes down to people. The more people you know, the easier it is to get information, the easier it is to move forward in a single direction rather than being stuck at a standstill. So to the individual who asked that question, I hope that helped.
Thank you so much. Next question here is, how do you begin to start networking and how do you start to expand your network? Currently, some people just have a limited network of people that they have, either physically interacted with in the past or currently are.
So that's interesting. So you know how I said I have over 22,000 connections today? Check this out. Every connection that I have invited, I sent the brief introductory note on LinkedIn. You can actually modify that, by the way. You can write whatever you want to do it to a certain cap. But the point is that I went ahead and modified those messages, and I actually said, "Hi, I'm Ovais. I do ABC. I came across your profile. I thought that was amazing. Would you like to connect?" And guess what? I don't even know if maybe half of them accepted, the other half just said, "Nah, not interested." And that's cool. Or some people have that, what I call the pre-pandemic mindset, which is if I don't know you, I'm never connecting with you, which by the way is now, it's now archaic. It doesn't exist anymore because the pandemic, again, has evolved all of us right now. So I'm using that as a segue to now the answer. The answer is simple. My advice on how to build your network is what I call digital and what I call in person. So what you want to start doing now is if you go into LinkedIn and you start Googling, I'm gonna make this up, okay? So I'm an accountant today and I'm gonna Google accountant space bank into Google, correction, not Google, apologies, I'm gonna say LinkedIn, into LinkedIn search bar. Guess what? Microsoft owns LinkedIn. Guess what? LinkedIn's worth billions, with a B, billions of dollars. Guess what? LinkedIn has such highly sophisticated algorithms and back-end software that their search engine is like Google. If you punch in those exact words, accountant space banking, believe it or not, you will, and you invest people, you will find every single person who's currently working in there. And when you scroll the page, like wherever it is, page 77, it's people who have formerly worked there. So that's how intelligent LinkedIn search bar is. Start doing that. Start searching up people within areas of interest and invite them and send that polite note to them asking for, if they were willing to connect with you. And when they accept, don't stop there. Actually stay in communications with them. And this is the last piece I'm going to say, because I know I get asked that question a lot too, which is how do you maintain now they've networked? Well, I'll tell you a little trick right now. And I wish I could share my screen and show all of you. I have what I call the electronic Rolodex. For those of you who are old as I am and you remember the old school Rolodex, right? I call this now electronic Rolodex. So I've actually created an Excel file with a proper column, search, you name it, the whole fancy stuff. And I keep every single contact there. I kid you not. And twice a year, which is always end of July and always 4 days or 5 days before Christmas, so December 25th, where I sent out touch points. I seriously do this. And let's be real, right? It's hard to individualize or customize every note. So I bucket though. I bucket. I say the bankers are here. I say all the logistics industry people are there. All the medical field uniform members are there. And I tailor those generic messages. And I just BCC everybody, shoot it out, because I love to stay in touch with people. And that's what I recommend.
Thank you. Next question here is, how can you show your fearless gesture clusters over a phone interview where it's not face-to-face?
I love that. Okay, so guess what? Your voice is you. Video doesn't mean anything. Video, and so do you all notice that in your life today, when you talk to somebody on the phone, there's sometimes those people, you've never even seen their face, whether it be a woman or a man, but it's just so much fun talking to them. They sound fun, right? And we've all experienced that before. And why is that? What is that mechanism that translates to you inferring this positive dialogue, right? Well, it's the way you talk. If you're not a person today who who's not afraid to speak up, if you're if you're a little bit shy, right, you got to change that. You got to restructure the way you choose to speak, meaning start being more personable. Business talk, and whatever role you do, even if you're in the military today and you're talking to a colleague or your boss, business talk is business talk. We all get that. But it's the small talk, quote unquote, that really goes a long way. Whenever you start a call, break the ice. In other words, when you talk to your best friends today, let's be real. Every time you talk to them, you're always breaking the ice by talking about some random stuff. And then you jump into whatever your question or ask is, right? Do that in the professional world, because that resonates a very long way. And I don't need to see your face to hire you. No, that's so irrelevant. But if I feel good energy when I'm talking to you, when I'm hearing you, to me, that gets me excited and going, yeah, I love to work with that girl or with that guy. I think I'll have a lot of fun. That's what you should look at. That's the way you should look at it.
Thank you. Next question here is, if a recruiter posts a job on LinkedIn, should they be sending a resume in first, or start a conversation, build a relationship, and then lead to talking about the job or sending a resume in?
Okay, I'm actually glad someone asked that. And you know what? My apologies. I maybe should have brought that up as a bullet point. So I can tell you right now, I have helped, not a direct result of me, no, but I have helped 4 people get employed in the current organization I work for, because I told them to do this. There was a role or job opening that was advertised over LinkedIn by the company I work for. Okay, that person these 4 individuals individually, they came up to me and asked, well, what should I do? How do I increase my chances of success getting hired? Well, this is what I recommended. In order, if you see a job, and this, by the way, will apply out to all, okay? If you see a job posting, apply to the job. The second you're done applying for the job, collect the job title and collect what's called a job ID or requisition number. It's a number, right? So what you want to do is you ultimately want to produce an email now where the subject line goes, how do I make this up? Procurement manager, space dash space, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So in other words, you're giving the information that matters to the hiring manager and to HR, whoever else reads this within the company, so they can search it up quickly. That's what you're doing. You're making life easier. You do that. And then what you want to do is you want to quickly find out through your own research who is the hiring manager and who is the HR recruiter. It's usually very, very easy to find out over LinkedIn, whether you have an insider contact or not, because you can actually just tell. If you type in, it's usually given, like if you see something that says accounting, just type in, accounting space recruitment or recruiter or a headhunter, and that company name after that. And you're going to find the whole list of HR people. And then flip side, management as well. You usually find it very easily. Director, procurement, boom, you found that person. So that's what I would suggest. You apply, you send an email to each of the hiring manager, so separately hiring manager, and then another separate note to the HR individual as well. And keep it very simple. Just say, hi, my name is Susan. I've just applied for the respective role, and I like to highlight myself to you for candidacy, period. I look forward to hearing from you and or the application process. Sincerely, Ovais or whatever. That's what I would suggest.
Thank you. Next, there's a few questions about a 30-second elevator speech. Do you have one? And any tips on how everyone else should prepare for theirs?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's actually a great one. So here's my advice, and you have to practice a lot for this one. Everyone, the elevator pitch or elevator speech, it's usually less than 30 seconds for the record, especially now with technology. You could, but it happens. You could very be in an elevator with an executive or someone you really want to introduce yourself to. My advice is you really want to look at it as 15 seconds to be real. And what you want to do is that in 15 seconds, you want to be able to give a macro description of yourself and end it and have enough time to end it with saying, just want to say, I've actually always wanted to introduce myself to you. And if you wouldn't mind, maybe I can shoot you a note after this sometime today, and we can set some time together for a further discussion or a coffee chat or whatever. That's the format you want to approach. So now if you're talking about that macro description, what do you say? If I had to think of myself right now on the spot, and let's say, argument's sake, I'm in an elevator with the CEO of my organization. Well, I'll say, hi X. My name's Ovais, and I actually work in ABC line of business. I've always wanted to have a chance to meet like this in person. And so what are the odds this is happening today? Would you, maybe if you don't mind, can I perhaps send you a note and after this, and I could maybe schedule some time to chat with you further, or maybe you don't decide to that because that person is a CEO, and you say instead, hopefully I get a chance to see you again. Just doing that, whether you close your elevator speech with an ask or whether you don't close it with an ask, that person is now going to remember you. The reason why you don't give too much info is because they're not going to remember that. That's what I'm saying. Keep it very simple. Just say the department that you work in, give your name, and just say, and tell them what's really real, that you're excited to see them, right? And you've always wanted to introduce yourself to them. And guess what's going to happen? I promise you this, they remember your face, name, give or take, they may not remember, but they will always remember your face. And that's what matters, because one day you could send them a note down the line and they will remember you because they may see your display picture, or you send them your LinkedIn profile saying, as a recap, we once met. Oh, here's my profile. If you want to see my face, they'll remember you. So that's the way you should look at it.
Thank you. Here's another really good question. How do you overcome the fear of being discriminated because of age? I just turned 40, and while I'm very experienced professional immigrant, I feel like my age might be a disadvantage in restarting a career in Canada.
So I'll tell you what someone once told me, and it was, interestingly enough, they're both relatable. I was worried that this being a military veteran, especially a combat veteran, does that go against me now when I apply for roles in finance or financial institutions? And I once had a senior member or a senior ranked person in an organization once tell me that, look, if that person or if that company holds that against you, then believe me, it's not even worth your effort and time to even give them the day of life. Because why would you want to join an organization that discriminates like that? So we're using age. Age is just a number. Your resume speaks to everything. And I'll tell you something else. Your resume doesn't tell you how old you are. In fact, look at me right now, webcam, everybody. I have gray hair. And you know what? I'm 36 years old. Yeah, I probably got this gray hair, half genetics, half going to two wars. But at the end of the day, I look old. I do. And I openly say it too. I'm losing my hair. I'm saying things that are so typical for guys specifically, but applying to all for a one size fits all approach here, your appearance is irrelevant. Your age is irrelevant. What matters is, and what should only matter is, are you the right person? Can you bring the best value for that job opening and bring the best cohesion, teamwork, partnership, reinforcement to that hiring manager? And that's what you should be focused on. And anyone else that you may feel or got a gut sense or holding certain things against you, forget them. They're not even worth your time because there's something always better out there. And that's what I recommend.
Thank you. How can you maintain a relationship with people on LinkedIn when you've just kind of have one discussion with them and there really isn't much else to talk about? Like, how do you keep that relationship going?
Okay, so just real quick, I know we're running short time, so I'm going to answer these questions a lot quicker, but to the point. That's a good question. There's two types of contacts in every network. You have what's called the long-term investment contact, and you have what's called the short-term investment contact. Their short-term means is that you already know that's the company that you want to get into. You already know there's job openings, whether it be available today or it's going to become available. That short-term contact, stay in the loop with them, right? So if it's, I'll make the name up, I don't know, Sarah something, let's just say Sarah. So Sarah is the person that works there, whether they're high manager or not. You want to keep in comms with Sarah per quarter. That means every 3 months, because within the span of every 3 months is usually a job opening anyways for any company. Then you have a long term, so that's what you do for short term, because you're trying to look for that immediate hiring. Long term, different story. That's where I would recommend that 2 times a year approach that I told all of you about in my electronic Rolodeck. Do that. So send them a note every 6 months. Send them a touch-up note saying make it personable. Say that I'm doing great. We had a baby, or this or that, or I bought a goldfish. Whatever it is you want to say. Keep it personal, and that thing goes a long way as well.
Thank you. Here's a good one. Can you please tell us a secret of you being so energetic? Are there any particular self-help books that you recommend to newcomers to Canada to read?
Okay, so, so I'll tell you like it is. I'm personally energetic because I'm very passionate. Remember when our first bullet points talked about doing what you love? I'm very passionate about knowing that what I'm saying is going to help somebody. Now, whether it helps them or not, truly, in the end of the day, or whether it comes to fruition to give them the benefit they need, I don't know, but that's what excites me. It's because I don't know what I'm going to say today is going to work or not for somebody. But I believe that down the line, I'm going to get something back, a feedback or an update. And someone going to say, guess what? I did it. So for me, that's what drives and it gives me that energy, to be happy, to be smiling all the time and to be real. So I recommend you do the same thing as well.
Thank you. We'll take one last question, and it is about your LinkedIn picture. I think you added a ring around it. Does that help make you stand out? Have you noticed an increase of profile traffic as a result of that feature?
Ooh, that's a great question. So actually, I call that one personal branding. And I'm actually laughing because the person who asked that question, you clearly pay attention to detail. That is a tactic I personally deployed and a tactic that I believe may have worked greater than not putting some type of border around my picture. So short and sweet. Majority of people today, old generation, especially younger generation, we all use Instagram. In fact, it's been quantitatively proven that the usage of Facebook has drastically decreased while there's been a massive uptick in the use of Instagram. So I deployed one of their concept models, which is we all know the color scheme of the ring circle around your profile picture. I decided to take that and apply that to LinkedIn. And now, whenever time I comment, and I'm very active on LinkedIn, for those of you who may have looked me up already, I'm very active. So I comment or I like, my picture now will, there's a term called peacocking. It peacocks, which means, what's a peacock? The bird that has all the beautiful feathers. Well, guess what? The peacock's standing in a field of all kinds of other animals. You're probably gonna look at the peacock first because you're going, wow, that's interesting, caught my eye. That's that same methodology I deployed by using that ring now in my picture. So now every single time I make a comment or like, everybody, whether it be external audience or the owner of that content, will now know that Ovais Ahmed just reacted to something. And so my advice is, if you want, by all means, go ahead and test it out. But the term personal branding is where this falls under. And what I would strongly suggest is start educating yourself on how to better personal brand yourself. There's YouTube videos on this stuff. It's remarkable. It's mind-blowing that personal branding can lead to and generate actually job offers. It can lead you being poached to other companies because of the perception that it gives, and all positive thing, of course. So I hope that answered your question.
Thank you so much, Ovais. I'll give you a minute to recap or say any comments that you have before I move forward.
Yeah, so maybe I'll say this, here's my elevator pitch, everybody. So again, my name is pronounced Ovais, last name Ahmed, And I want to say thank you very much for giving your time today. As you can tell on the screen behind us, I've offered my name down there as well, should you wish to connect on LinkedIn. And my feedback is connect with me. I accept everybody. I accept every invite, okay? And I love connecting with people. So connect with me, stay in touch. Let me know. I want to hear some good news. Come on, give me the good news that one day something I said helped you out. And whether I decide to pursue further webinars like this or not down the line, stay tuned. I'll figure it out then, but stay tuned. And that's all I have, Sonia. Thank you very much.